Hi, I'm Nicole Belanda. I'm the Customer Advocacy Program Manager at Rockwell Automation, and we're here to talk about results achieved. I'm joined by Jandren from Cartesian Kinetics to talk about some great results that they've recently achieved. Hi.
I'm sure you'd like to know a little bit more about Cartesian. Our mission at Cartesian is to see how we could make any racking system in distribution centers and fulfillment centers into automated racking systems. I think the industry itself is going through a massive transformation, and that transformation is what is needing automation. The industry used to be called supply chain. It was a straight line that connected a manufacturer with a consumer, people like you and I. Product left a manufacturing facility, went to a warehouse, went to a store, and you and I went to a store to pick it up, and that's how it's been for decades. I think now what's going on, backed by technology, accelerated by COVID, all our lives have changed. The straight line supply chain is becoming more complex, with now the consumer at the center and not just the manufacturer. And you and I buy, eat, consume the same amount of stuff, but the channels with which we buy stuff have evolved so much in the last few years that now it's easy to push information to your phone, but think of 20 different ways in which I'm going to have to move product into your hands. And that is making the industry transform, and that is driving the need for automation.
How has that changed the way that you go about business?
I think the number one challenge is you had a distribution center that had a bunch of trucks show up at a given time every day, taking product out to consumers. Today that happens 24/7. You have product leaving to stores, you have product leaving to e-commerce channels, you have product leaving to many, many other channels. So they're having to kind of go from single shift operation to multi-shift operation. The big e-commerce companies are beginning to set the bar on fulfillment speed. Same day, next day is becoming the norm today. So that's driving change. And I think people in general are finding many, many different ways to keep themselves gainfully employed that warehousing and the logistics sector is not able to find people at the rate at which it needs. And at the center of all of this is automation. Automation is almost like an Occam's razor now that can solve for all of these problems at one shot.
I love it. So tell us about how automation has played into improving warehousing and distribution.
A few important things that we learned in our journey so far is you have two kinds of distribution centers. You have distribution centers that are built automation first. There are a bunch of infrastructural requirements that any technology would need. Automation is no different. You need to have squeaky clean level floors. You need to have pillars in certain locations. You need to have fire suppression and your Wi-Fi network not come in the way. And once you build a building, fresh and ground up with these kind of specifications, it's easy to bring automation in. But you have 25,000 plus warehouses that have been built over the last 30, 40, 50 years, where none of this was even thought about when those buildings were built. And they were organically kind of improved over time. So now you don't have floors that can receive robots. You have racks and you have all other kind of infrastructure in the middle of everywhere. And now you're going to have to bring in stuff that needs new infrastructural changes. This is one of the biggest challenges that the warehouse operators are facing with respect to consuming automation. I'm growing, I'm setting up a new facility, it's very easy for me to bring automation there, but I have 10, 15, 20 other buildings, how do I bring automation in there? So that's a big challenge. You get into planning a manufacturing line, you got to produce 1,000 widgets in a day, each widget goes through 10 processes, each process takes so much amount of time. It's very easy to think, simulate, and plan a manufacturing line. Fulfillment in logistics is about as random as you can ever get. You don't know what order is going to get dropped. So for people who are evaluating automation, convincing themselves that this would actually do the job that they want it to do is one of the hardest problems. And what we've done at Cartesian over the last 2 years is we're big believers in the concept of digital twins. Digital twin, as the word means, is a twin of the system that you're trying to build, but it's digital in nature. So you can put it together fast, you can run it at nearly no cost, but you can get it to test things much faster. You can get it to do scenarios very, very fast. You want to find out what's going to happen to this automation the day after Thanksgiving. You want to find out what happens when suddenly a vendor of yours doesn't send you product in time. So we built a digital twin for our product using Rockwell's Emulate 3D. And that's been a very, very powerful tool in going to the end users, looking at their lives through the crystal ball that is our product. And say, look, you have your life today, here is data, you've run your business for the last 2 years. And now let's imagine what your life would look like if you bring automation in. And we're able to take a solution, we're able to build a digital version of the solution, digital twin of the solution in Emulate 3D, and then run their business through that. And they get to see a very clear A-B comparison. And that helps them conclude that automation is going to give them the results that they want.
Super interesting. And I love the concept of using a digital twin as a trust building mechanism too with your customers. They can really see what they're going to be putting in place before they have to buy anything, put anything in place. It's already proven for them.
Yeah. We kind of started with as clean a sheet of paper as we could. And we got to look at this problem statement of bringing robotics into existing warehouses with a fresh pair of eyes. And some of the problems that we realized in bringing robotics into existing buildings is floors are not going to be how you want them to be. They're going to have divots, in some cases craters in them. You have racks in place already. It's very wasteful to bring them down or move them because it's taken a lot of time, effort, and money putting them in. And this was a big challenge that our engineering team took up in the early days. So when we broke it down into smaller problems, we said, look, we need to build robotics that will work with standard racking. And when we kind of took this a little further, we realized that the requirement for precision in all robotics comes from wheels having to engage on floors or on channels or on beams. So we said, why do we not get all of this out and make a robot that's not using wheels to propel itself? Because the moment you don't have wheels to propel a robot, then you don't have to worry about the imperfections. That's where Rockwell's linear motion technology came in. If you have to build something that does not have wheels propelling it, you need to figure out a way to actually put propulsion into it. And that was ICT. So the independent cart technology from Rockwell and QuickStick, the product line that we use, allows us to go in and between these racks, put paths, almost like how you have magnetic levitation trains, where the wheels are not moving the robot forward. You have the robot is almost like a projectile going through space. But this now allows us to work with racking systems that can be as imperfect as you can. So that was one challenge. So the hardware was built to work with imperfect existing racking systems. The second part of the hardware that makes it super nifty is the promise of all automation. We said, look, the job of a human inside a fulfillment center is to pick stuff off a box, which was inventory in that box, and convert it into an order, which is another box, but it has a customer's name on it. That's the only difference, right? I mean, it was in a box that had 100 of that widget. Now it's in another box which has one of widget A and one of widget B, but it has a customer's name and a shipping address on it, and you converted an inventory into an order, and that's the job of the human in this operation. So if you need to amplify my productivity, you need to help bring more product to me as fast as you can, and you need to help me pick from this and put it into a box as fast as I can. And so what we realized is, and the biggest drain on human productivity inside a fulfillment center is people walking. We went and observed what associates do in a warehouse. They're walking, they're constantly eyeing a bunch of boxes, and they're already planning what they need to pick in time. I'm going to pick this and I'm going to go there and pick that. So we said, why don't we give the ability to pick from multiple bins at a point of time? So we then have our robots bring a whole wall of containers or bins or totes to the associate. And then they pick from this while the robots are in the back magically changing these totes out. So ICT-backed hardware that lets us go and put stuff in imperfect scenarios, and human-machine interface where the human is able to now work with a wide range of totes.
What a beautiful approach. I mean, you're taking warehousing back to first principles. You're breaking it down and figuring out exactly what problems we can solve And I love the concept of not starting with a totally clean slate. We need to start where we're at and build from there. How has this been received by your customers?
I started this company along with a few co-founders of mine with the vision to go back and fix what's broken and not go and tell people, build new buildings. And that was a tall. Every competitor of ours, every other automation company of ours was doing something very different from what we were doing. So it took us a lot of conviction to stay true to this. And 2 years into this now, every customer that we go and speak to, where we're able to show them that hard work that they have put in to setting up an infrastructure that can now be improved and not replaced. You have an important productivity metric in the industry is what's called picks per hour. You're designing a building. You're designing a building for a certain number of orders to be shipped in a day. You have another number of items in every order, depending on the category. So that now eventually comes down to how many items you need to pick from inventory and convert into orders every hour. What we saw in the digital twins that we built in the past is we were able to get anywhere between 5 to 7x improvement in human productivity. And our very first install out at a customer is showing at least 5x improvement in productivity. And now because the associates not scurrying around all the time trying to find product A, product B, the cognitive load on them is not so high. They make lesser mistakes, which is beautiful. Because in the fulfillment industry, it costs a lot more to bring a product back than to send it out to a customer. So just reducing errors in itself pays for itself much faster. So we're seeing error rates come down by a factor of 10. So we're seeing productivity go up between 5 and 6 times. We're seeing error rates come down by a factor of 10. And all this is helping our customer grow their business, because what happens now is you can push more out with the same number of people that you have. We're seeing people's top line grow. We're seeing productivity numbers grow by 5, 7x. We're seeing quality improve by at least 10 times. So
those are some fabulous numbers, some fabulous initial numbers. And this is an industry that is going to continue to face more and more volume. So having that ability to scale up is critical. So I think a couple of interesting epiphanies we had in this journey so far, right? Is one, we spoke at length about going into existing buildings, right? Most of these are facilities that will change their futures if they automate, but they're not able to find automation solutions that can come in and help them improve while they're running. The second thing is this thing about how you got to build your product for amplifying the human operator. A human in the loop is a very, very important part of automation, however contrarian it sounds. The promise of automation is to not take the person out of the equation. The next 20 years is going to be about companies trying to move atoms and molecules with the agility that they moved bits and bytes in the past. And that is going to surface interesting challenges in automation and robotics that I think if you're a professional in that space right now, it's a great time to be in history in that space. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us. We're very excited to see what happens with Cartesian Kinetics in the next couple of years.